Forgetting, often seen as a cognitive failure, is increasingly recognized as an adaptive and essential component of memory. It helps to improve cognitive efficiency, behavioral flexibility, and emotional regulation by supporting selective retention and the removal of pointless information. Today, we are going to examine the mechanisms and theoretical frameworks surrounding forgetting. But before we do that, I am Nero and welcome to the Cognitive Nomad. Unlike your car keys, my name isn't something you should forget. Let's take a look at some of the major theories that explain forgetting and maybe even why you forget to subscribe to this channel. Traditionally, we classify theories of memories based on whether the memory is completely lost or if the memory is just inaccessible as a result of retrieval failure. One process signifies that the memory was available at one point in time, but now is currently lost, maybe due to the influence of time or other factors. And the other process implies that due to the absence of a particular clue, the memory at the present time, especially when we're trying to retrieve it, is probably inaccessible but could be accessed if the right cues are present. The first of these theories we're going to be looking at today is called trace decay and displacement, and it is used in explaining forgetting in short-term memory. It proposes that memories tend to fade or memory traces tend to fade over time and can be sustained or prolonged on the condition that we tend to rehearse the information repeatedly, vocally. In the case of displacement, it implies that one information tends to displace another information, which is the new information displacing an old information. Just like if I were to present two series of numbers, let's assume I present this one, 3, 7, 8, 4, 6, 2. And then I present the second one, 1, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, 1. And it's assumed that the new information, which is the second number presented, is going to displace the first number originally presented. However, instead of a trace decay explanation, studies on rehearsal like that of Brown and Peterson are pointing us towards a more influential and better explanation for forgetting, which is interference theory. Interference theory remains a very strong explanation for forgetting, especially in long-term memory. It proposes that forgetting happens because memories interfere and disrupt each other. Interference may actually occur in either the proactive interference or the retroactive interference. In the proactive interference, this is when old information we have learned months ago, weeks ago, or even yesterday, interferes with new information we're about to learn. And in the case of retroactive interference, it is when the new information we are learning affects the old information we have learned in the past, thereby leading to us forgetting either the old information or the new information, depending on the form of interference that occurs. Interference is more common when there is similarity between memory traces. Miller emphasizes that associative interference is interference that is influenced by the similarity in the content of the target memory and the potentially interfering memory. He's stating that we can reinterpret cases of spontaneous decay or displacement that explains short-term memory as simply associative interference. Now, outside the interference explanation from Miller, he's also proposing that forgetting could also happen because of the absence of the necessary retrieval cues to stimulate recall. This brings us to the retrieval failure paradigm, which emphasizes that memories are stored, but they cannot be accessed because the necessary or the required retrieval cues are absent. The retrieval failure paradigm emphasizes that it is crucial to match the encoding and retrieval context because the chances of retrieving an information in the future increases only if the cues at the point of encoding or learning the information will be present at the time of retrieval. Now, let's take this example. Imagine listening to music as you study, but when it comes to writing the exam, I don't think you'll be listening to music. The retrieval failure paradigm at this point is stating that because there is a mismatch in the cue in the environmental context, meaning you're studying with music, but your exam is without music, forgetting is likely to happen because the cue is absent. Now, the information may be present, but the cue that is going to help to recall the information is absent. The information based on the retrieval failure paradigm, it's not lost. The information is not lost, but it is temporarily inaccessible, which implies that if the cue, in this case music, is present, it is very likely that you will remember the information you encoded initially. Just for the side note, try not to study with music so that you don't forget. So we've been able to talk about the major theories of forget, like the trace, decay, and displacement theory, the interference theory, and the retrieval failure theory. We all tend to forget things. It's one of the biggest questions in memory research. Why do we forget things? Like maybe you forgetting to like this video as you have watched it till this point. So if memories are still present, but they're just temporarily inaccessible, how then does forgetting play out over time? Forgetfulness, we need to understand, does not follow a uniform pattern. It is characterized by decelerating loss of memory, which implies, as we state, that you forget at a faster pace and then it steadies over time. So you tend to forget more rapidly. And then over time, the rate of forgetting slows down. Now, this pattern suggests that memories tend to undergo consolidation, and consolidation is necessary to ensure that memories are resistant to disruption, which makes them more stable over time. As a result, older memories tend to be more stable and also tend to be less vulnerable to interference than newer memories that we tend to experience, or newer experiences that we tend to encode. Now, this pattern of forgetting that we observe tends to align with Unjust's principle of forgetting, whereby he states that if two memories are of similar strength but differ in age, the older memory tends to decay more slowly than the newer one. And this indicates that time itself, along with reinforcement and rehearsal, helps to stabilize memory. Now, over time, the consolidated memories, because it has spent more time being consolidated and reconsolidated, are less prone to interference and what we call decay. Now, similarly, we also have Reboot's law, which came in the 19th century, and he's stating that when there is a brain damage or there is a memory-related condition, the newer memories are more likely to be lost than the older memories. This clinical observation further supports the fact that older memories are more durable due to the fact that they've undergone extensive consolidation and integration within the brain's memory system. We have seen that time influences memory, but it also contributes to the durability of consolidated memories. Yet, time alone is not enough to determine the fate of a memory. The internal structure of the memory is also important in shaping how these memories are forgotten. And this brings us to the hierarchical and differential forgetting of episodic memories. We have seen that forgetting does not occur uniformly across all aspects of memory. And this is further supported by Andermain and colleagues, who further propose that episodic memories are organized hierarchically, from individual items to small-scale events to large-scale episodic narratives. They argue that forgetting may be characterized at each of these levels by different mechanisms in a hierarchy, leading to different patterns of behavior, not the same pattern of behavior. Now, at lower level, they have the perceptual features, which include something like object's color, or maybe the object in a location. And they tend to fragment over time, but also more quickly. Now, what this implies is that you may be at an event, but you remember a lot of people are wearing clothes. And at some point over time, you're not necessarily remembering the color someone was wearing. It could be maybe a person is wearing a jacket, but you're not certain of what color the jacket is, after a period of time. So perceptual details about an event tend to be lost more quickly and first. Now, another example could be you could be, at a party, and then you're not sure if the wardrobe was open or closed, but you know that there was a wardrobe there, basically. Now, at the second level, which is at the middle level, You have the small scale events, which include who was there, what was said, when something was said. Now, they occur or they are forgotten in a all or nothing fashion. So it's either you remember everything or you remember none of it. So if you remember one thing, it often implies that you're going to remember the next thing and the next thing. So if you remember who was there, you may remember what was said and who responded to what. But then, if you forget who was there, you're most likely going to forget every single thing. Now, at the final level, which is basically at the narrative level, which is exactly how episodic memories tend to reorganize themselves, it's that it's at this level that memory is sustained for a longer duration of time, because the peripheral details and the perceptual details are often forgotten first and, faster. And all we tend to remember are the themes. Oh, I was at this person's birthday that time, my time in the university. And this helps us to ensure that memories are stable and they persist for longer durations of time. Taking together everything we've said about the hierarchical and differential forgetting of episodic memories and the three levels, we can see that episodic memories undergo a process of transformation that will prioritize the stability of the central thing. Now, as the peripheral and the perceptual details are lost, the memories are consolidated around the core theme of the event, which could be the central idea or the gist, which would ensure that the essential structure of the event remains accessible even as the final details are lost. Within this framework proposed to us by Andermain and colleagues, we can observe a shift upwards towards larger scale representation. That is, as the perceptual and peripheral details tend to be lost, the episodic memories tend to reorganize themselves around central themes and gist, which serve as stable anchors for personal memories across lifespan. Now, forgetting doesn't simply imply that the memory is being lost. It's that we are reorganizing the information in such a way that the memory system will rely heavily on higher level and narrative themes, as the foundation of recall and as a means for maintaining personal continuity. Therefore, it makes sense that most autobiographical memories are not seen as exact replicas of episodic experiences, but as reorganized combination of episodic content and stable thematic structures. This framework helps us to understand why we tend to remember episodic events based off our interpretation, with strong emotions serving as anchors that stabilize core things. The emotional salience of an event tends to act as a foundation for future recall and maintain the continuity of self across time. And so we may continue to see forgetting as a cognitive failure, but more than that, we can also see that it's a systematic and adaptive process that shapes the way memories are stored, transformed, and recalled. We've also seen that episodic memories are characterized within three levels of the lower level, mid, and the upper level. And each of these levels present with different behavioral patterns of how forgetting occurs, with the lower levels fragmenting very quickly, the mid levels forgetting in an all or none fashion. And then we also see that they reorganize themselves into central theme and gist of a narrative event. Far from being disruptive, forgetting reorganizes memory in such a way that it preserves meaning, stabilizes personal narratives, and maintains the continuity of self across time. Just like remembering, forgetting is as vital to who we are. Forgetting is natural, but subscribing and sharing, that is unforgettable. See you in the next one.